Important update about YouTube playlists. Hey everyone. We've received many messages asking why our YouTube playlists aren't showing up. Do we create YouTube playlists? Yes, we absolutely do. So why can't you see them? Honestly, we're not sure. We've been in contact with YouTube support for several months now, but we still haven't received a clear answer or solution. After much discussion, our team has decided to take matters into our own hands. We believe the issue might be related to the number of playlists we've created on a single channel, possibly too many. Our solution? We're launching 2 additional YouTube channels, giving us a total of 3. This way, we can organize our audiobooks better and avoid the playlist visibility issue in the future. This change only affects our YouTube audience. If you're a patron supporter, you can still access all our audiobooks by visiting the collection menu on Patreon. Thanks so much for your time and continued support. Happy listening. The young man paused his game, took out a small blade from his pocket, and made a cut on his palm. Not to mention we're maintaining our self-awareness, but even this kind of pain can't wake us up. This obviously isn't hypnosis or something similar. Do you need a tissue? While others backed away from the young man's abnormal behavior, a young woman around his age handed him a tissue. Thanks. The young man thanked her before taking the tissue. It seemed there were quite a few capable people in this group, which made Haruya feel somewhat relieved. No, this wasn't exactly relief, just a feeling that the number of incompetent teammates might decrease. Still, I never thought I'd encounter something akin to time travel. Why didn't you think of it? Haruya, who had blended into the crowd, asked the young man who had cut his hand with the blade. Why? If humans could invent a time machine in the future, then my descendants or a 100-year-old version of me would definitely come back to take me to the future. The young man spoke calmly, scanning the people around him. People nowadays are too stupid. This guy could say such annoying things with such a calm expression. He was quite impressive in other aspects. But it was precisely because of this personality that Haruya approached him. Hello, I'm Nanbu Haruya. My surname is Kang, given name Lingchuan. I. Beside the two, the young woman who had handed Lingchuan the tissue stuttered something. Haruya looked at her. She was only 2 or 3 years older than him, so he asked, and you, miss? My name is Lianayu, surname? Nan. She finally said. Nan Lianayu. It's strange, right? She placed her hands on her chest, and Haruya noticed that this black-haired woman had a quite good figure. The hairpin on her head was somewhat cute, likely a childlike adult. Lianayu was now wearing a company employee's outfit, looking somewhat tired, but she still tried to perk up and talk to Haruya. It is indeed strange. Lingchuan didn't hold back, but there is no need to be so concerned, Miss Nan. Please call me Lianayu. Please. Lianayu covered her face with her hands, feeling helpless about her surname. Lingchuan continued playing his game, sharing what he knew. The surname Nan is quite rare in China, ranking at the very bottom. It's distributed in 4 small villages in Han, where men and women, old and young, all share the surname Nan. It's said that the Nan surname migrated north with the Xianbai people, and the Songhua River was renamed Nan River at that time. Really? I didn't know that. Lianayu said this, showing that she wasn't as knowledgeable about her own surname as Lingchuan, an outsider. While the 3 were talking, the Supreme Deity's voice rang out. Now, let's talk about the rules of this mission. No, this game. I'm not listening. Let me go back. Damn it. Please listen carefully. In the next moment, the man who interrupted had his right arm crushed by an invisible force, and he let out a harrowing scream. Lianayu, seeing this, ran to stand between the 2, avoiding the horrifying scene. Good. The game rules cannot be skipped. Chapter 2, A New World begins. First, let me tell you all that this is a dimension under my control. You can think of your current situation as a form of time travel, or perhaps a spatial displacement, or even both. Compared to your previously boring lives, this place might just fulfill the desires in your hearts. At this moment, upon hearing the Supreme Deity's words, everyone present wore expressions of disbelief. Unlike Haruya, who had been chosen, these people were likely here because they had clicked yes, right? What surprised Haruya was that he had originally thought he would be acting alone, but now there were so many people here. Before anyone could raise a question or even have the chance to say anything, the Supreme Deity continued speaking from above. Do you want to experience a life you've never lived before? Now is your chance to experience it, and at the same time, it's your chance to survive in this world. This statement made everyone tense up. The chance to survive. The implication was that if this chance slipped away or was lost, it would mean losing the chance to survive, and the consequences were obvious. Alright, let me explain in a more humanized way. The world you're about to face will be one filled with danger. Running away is your only option, but I know that as humans, your hearts are kind. Of course, the standard of kindness varies from person to person. Killing one person to save 100, such a situation falls somewhere in between. Without a doubt, the previous question was a Schrodinger's problem. Let's get back on topic. The Supreme Deity's monologue wasn't over yet. As he spoke, Ling Chuan, who was standing next to Haruya, suddenly interrupted. Rather than your meaningless ramblings, I'd prefer if you got straight to the point. My life has already been disrupted by you. Do you know about chaos theory? In an orderly life, even the smallest changes can lead to vastly different outcomes. Sigh. You're aware that someone interrupted me prior, and witnessed their subsequent punishment. But you quite interesting. So, shut up. The Supreme Deity's tone sounded a bit displeased. Ling Chuan, who wanted to say more, was stopped by Lian Yu beside him. Haruya also clapped his hands and walked over to Ling Chuan. It's better not to talk back right now. I know he has godlike powers, but this is a matter of principle. Ling Chuan coldly replied to Haruya, letting Lian Yu go before continuing to play his game. The rules are simple and can be understood by anyone. Of course, you can also choose to give up on the game, but you should know the consequences, right? It wasn't so much a threat as it was an absolute refusal to let anyone decline. Rule 1, in the game, you cannot abandon someone when you have the ability to help them, thereby indirectly causing harm to others. Rule 2, those who break the rules will be punished with brain shattering. Rule 3, fun is the most important thing. As long as you complete the assigned tasks, you can survive. Haruya didn't quite understand what the Supreme Deity meant by these words. Indirectly harming others? Must follow the rules? Does this mean the tasks aren't just about completing what the Supreme Deity assigns? Unlike what he had imagined, this was likely the Supreme Deity's new experiment, which was why these strange rules were added. There were only 2 actual rules, and while Haruya didn't fully understand their meaning, he could still follow them. However, these rules seemed to change the initial goal of the Supreme Deity's game, where one would do anything to survive. From this, it was clear that if everyone wanted to survive, they would have to learn to cooperate. I have a question. Rule 1, what exactly does it mean? The one who asked his was a short, bespectacled boy with a pale complexion, standing in a corner. Hearing this question, the Supreme Deity's light dimmed slightly, as if joking. I won't tell you, then. This is your game. If you want to survive, figure out the meaning for yourselves. Let me see the interesting side of you humans. Following this, the Supreme Deity announced that there would be 3 minutes of preparation time before the game began. Although this sentiment might be a bit rushed, please take care of me from now on. Haruya extended his hand to Ling Chuan, but the latter coldly refused. I'm not wearing gloves. I don't want to shake your hand. Still sticking to your germophobia at a time like this? I absolutely have to. It's a matter of principle. Matters of principle have nothing to do with the current situation. Even if the world were to end in the next second, it would be the same. Ling Chuan turned his body slightly, continuing to play his game as he spoke. Of course, I don't dislike cooperating with others. It's also a chance to understand the gap between others and myself. I. While Ling Chuan was speaking, Lian Yu reached out and grabbed Haruya's hand. Her hand was cold and trembling, clearly still unable to accept the current situation and feeling anxious about the future. At this moment, just as Haruya had imagined, with so many people gathered in an unknown and dangerous situation, arguments broke out. Hey! You just looked at me with disdain, didn't you? No, I didn't. You did. You bastard. A well-dressed man who seemed drunk grabbed the collar of a skinny man, and a fight was about to break out. It was clear that the latter would lose. Before everyone could find partners to rely on, a countdown appeared above. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Begin. In the next moment, the ground beneath their feet shattered. The surroundings changed in an instant, and as the afterimage effect faded, the square was replaced by streets, stone buildings, smoke, and blood. Screams, crashes, and rumbling sounds filled the air. Massive boulders fell from the sky. The sunlight was blocked by the black smoke above, and a map and a task prompt appeared in Haruya's mind. Task 1, reach point A. On the map in his mind, a red dot marked point appeared. It's begun. This world, a crazy and cruel world. Behind him, a colossal titan blocked out all the sunlight. What is that? Many people let out screams of terror. Boom. A titan's foot stomped on the ground, sending rocks flying and drawing everyone's attention. The titan grinned, bent down slightly, and then grabbed the drunk man who had been picking a fight, biting down. Crunch. Blood splattered, flesh torn apart. From the initial 31, now 30 remained. Chapter 3, The Supreme Deity's Twisted Taste and Divine Development. Titans were humanity's natural enemies. On average, it took the sacrifice of 30 people to take down a single titan. Whether Titans ate humans or not didn't affect their own survival. They didn't need to eat or drink, and despite having vocal organs, they didn't need to breathe. Moreover, they had no digestive system, so they would often regurgitate humans back out. There was no need for complex data or explanations. Only one thing needed to be understood. Titans saw humans as prey. Here, the prey wasn't hunted for survival or for fun. It was simply because Titans wanted to kill humans. Faced with the first casualty, the people who had been screaming in terror fled into the crowd of locals. Of course, everyone was fleeing toward the same destination. Point A, marked in their minds. Hey! Run faster. I don't know what those things are, but if they catch us, we're dead. This is from one of the hottest manga series, Attack on, Whoa. Before a young man could finish his sentence, he was knocked over by some locals. The chaotic stampede completely ignored him. The surroundings were filled with shattered houses, human corpses, and numerous Titans approaching in the distance. In this smoke-filled world, everywhere looked like a scene of human tragedy. Haruya was currently with Lingchuan and Lianayu. As the only girl among the three, Lianayu looked around in confusion. This wasn't the time to stand around and stare. Haruya thought this and decided to lead the two of them in taking action. The rules. Before moving, Lingchuan, who had put away his game console, spoke up. He looked up at the upper body of a Titan, then at the chaos around them. Lingchuan, shouldn't we leave here? Point A is over there, right? Lianayu, who was reminding Lingchuan, pointed to the road ahead. After passing through that district, they would reach the area where the military police and other soldiers were stationed. At that moment, a massive boulder and countless smaller rocks came crashing down toward them. Watch out! Haruya pulled the two of them into a nearby building that was already in ruins. The rocks crushed one of the people who had been standing there. Looking back at the spot where they had first appeared in this world, the young man who had been pushed to the ground was already motionless, his body covered in trample marks and crushed by rocks. Their number went down. Now, 28 remained. Boom. 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 As time passed, it didn't take long for the Titans to arrive from the streets in the distance. Haruya was about to flee, but to his surprise, Lingchuan rushed out at that moment, running toward the four people who had been left behind. Behind those people were two ordinary Titans. One was 3 meters tall, and the other was over 5 meters tall, its mouth covered in blood. Lingchuan, what are you doing? Lianayu grabbed Lingchuan's arm and shouted, those Titans over there will eat humans. I know, but the rules. Lingchuan said. Haruya remained silent in thought. He understood now. The rules set by the supreme deity from the very beginning, the rules Lingchuan had been muttering about. Rule 1, in the game, you cannot abandon someone when you have the ability to help them, thereby indirectly causing harm to others. Rule 2, those who break the rules will be punished with brain shattering. So, as Lingchuan shook off Lianayu's hand and ran out, Haruya also grabbed Lianayu's hand and followed Lingchuan. What? What are we doing? I don't want to get close to that. Why is this happening? Miss Lianayu, if you don't want to die so quickly, follow us. But why? The rules. As Haruya and the other two ran toward the 4 people who had been left behind, 6 others also ran over. Did they also figure out the rules? The rules stated that if you could help someone but chose to flee instead, it would count as indirectly harming others, and the punishment for breaking this rule was death. Including Haruya and the others, 9 people ran over to help the 4 who had been left behind. As for the 15 who continued to flee, they all died. Their brains shattered, blood splattering everywhere. Your name is Haruya, right? There's a Titan on the right. Based on its speed, it'll reach us in 10 seconds. I'll help the ones on the left, you help the ones on the right. We'll meet in the middle, and then we won't flee. Over there, I hear artillery fire. Isn't fleeing after helping the most important thing? That's not a loophole in the rules. Lingchuan said this, and soon the 3 of them reached their destination. 3 of the 4 people had simply fallen, and Haruya and Lianayu helped them up. The last 2 were pinned under a boulder. Looking at the situation, Lingchuan first rescued one of them, then searched for something to pry up the boulder. I'll do it. One of the 6 who had arrived later, a man in military uniform, placed his hands into the crevice. Hi-ah! The boulder was gradually lifted, and the others began dragging the man out from underneath. Boom! Before he could be fully pulled out, a Titan stepped on the boulder. Splat! Like ketchup, the man's lower body turned into a bloody mess. Splattered with blood, Haruya, who should have been used to this by now, felt his stomach churn. The urge to vomit hit him hard. Lianayu let out a scream as the remaining Titans closed in. Haruya, we can run now. Lingchuan reminded Haruya, and he was the first to charge toward the Titan on the left. Boom! An artillery shell hit the Titan, causing it to lose its balance and gave everyone a chance to escape. Halfway through running, Haruya stumbled and fell to the ground. The people around him, including Ling Xuan and Lian Yu, had already run ahead. Of course, the two of them looked back. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew past Haruya. Huh? Not understanding what had happened, Haruya stared blankly at the scene before him. It was different from what he had imagined. Having grown accustomed to death. No, having accepted his own death by now, the sight before him made the world seem distorted. It was the armored titan, and as it charged past, everything in its path was crushed, including those people. This is experiment successful. So this is how humans react and look when they see their companions die en masse. Don't worry, those were just NPCs. Still, this experiment was quite interesting, you twisted bastard. Good, let's officially begin this mission. Those NPCs have been erased, so even if you save, it won't help. The overly twisted turn of events left Haruya at a loss for words. If there was one thing to say, it would be this line. Banish the supreme deity from this world. Chapter 4, Restarting the Mission, Night of Disbandment. I won't apologize for what I did earlier. To put it another way, I find it strange when people feel sorry after doing something wrong, so I won't do that. I won't apologize. Besides, I don't think I did anything wrong. From this, it's clear that the thirst for knowledge doesn't vary across species. The emotion of desire exists among all things in the universe. It's quite fascinating. The supreme deity floated above Haruya, now glowing brightly, seemingly pleased with the earlier experiment. Although Haruya didn't believe the supreme deity possessed human emotions, achieving his goal must have brought some satisfaction. Thinking about it, there wasn't much to refute in the supreme deity's explanation. After all, the one in charge wasn't Haruya, but the being above him, who was close to a god. Of course, there was still a significant difference from a god, at least from Haruya's perspective. After witnessing what had just happened, even though Haruya knew it was a group of NPCs, he couldn't recover immediately. He had experienced death, he had died to avoid dying again. Yet, this time, he had experienced death without dying himself. The death of others. Sitting on a chair in the empty square, there was a table in front of him with some delicious food laid out. Having just seen mangled human bodies and blood splattering everywhere, Haruya had no appetite. It's a bit sad for me to say this, but unfortunately, even if someone chooses yes via email and gets transported to an intrinsic domain, they'll likely end up in someone else's domain first, not mine, though it's a bit annoying. I'll ask anyway. Why is that? The reason? Perhaps it's because my creation order was quite low, so most humans who became test subjects were taken by those ahead of me, leaving none for me. Creation order? Based on what you said earlier, there are many intrinsic domains, right? Are these intrinsic domains parallel dimensions or non-parallel dimensions? What a rather uninteresting question, the supreme deity murmured. Let me put it like this. There are parallel dimensions, which refers to the various dimensions contained within what you humans call multiverse. And within these dimensions, parallel universes exist. According to the fluctuations of world lanes, infinite universes are created. Within these infinite universes, humans who become test subjects will enter different dimensions based on certain rules. In short, someone from World Line A might enter the intrinsic domain of World Line B, right? Yes, but since the supreme deities of World Line A are innumerable, such situations rarely occur. We can interfere with each other's domains and world lanes, but ultimately, we are prevented from doing so by higher beings. That made sense. Haruya nodded as he sat in the chair. In the end, the existence of these intrinsic domains was to select elite humans. Interfering with each other would only cause unnecessary trouble. More importantly, I think you should be worried about something else. This mission, I know, the mission is restarting, right? If you pull any more twisted stunts, I'm quitting. Though you can't really threaten me, I won't do that again. While humans can repeat prankish behavior, I won't. Repeating something after getting the results is too inefficient. Plain stupid if you will. This statement from the supreme deity clearly invalidates most people's daily lives. In fact, it invalidates all humans because most human lifestyles are monotonous. Waking up, sleeping, eating, working, chatting, and playing games. Even though the result is a boring life, humans must repeat these actions to survive. The world is still Attack on Titan. Now, you can choose a code name. My suggestion is Pablo Diego Jose Francisco de Paula Juan Nepomuceno Maria de los Remedios Cipriano de la Santísima Trinidad Luis. How does that sound, Haruya? Stop messing around. Don't take a great painter's name, change it, and make it my code name. From a human perspective, the longer something is, the better, right? Like secondary sexual characteristics during mating, even if you say that. Don't worry. Even if yours is short, I can use my power to make it longer. How about 1 meter? Do you want me to walk around with my dick rolled up like a Saiyan's tail? Forget about your brain short-circuiting for a moment. As for the code name, my own name is fine. Such low standards. Also, I don't have a brain, PFFT, Haruya laughed. He had finally managed to tease the supreme deity. Do you have a dick? No. Then the supreme deity asked, do you want to die? No. The conversation ended, and the mission restarted. Haruya's code name was ultimately decided to be his own name. Then, please continue saving. Your battle has only just begun, don't say such cringe things, you jerk. And so, the mission began. The sound of wind filled Haruya's ears, and he smelled the smoke of burning tar. Looking at his clothes, he found himself wearing a trainee soldier's uniform. The instructor's voice rang out at that moment. The price of 100 years of peace was paid in tragedy. With the crisis awareness of that time, there was no way to deal with the colossal titan that appeared. The result was that the front wall, Maria, was abandoned. Thus, humanity's living area retreated to within wall, Rose, where they now lived. Even if that colossal titan comes back now to destroy the wall, we wouldn't be surprised. The instructor continued, at that time, you must fulfill your duties and sacrifice your lives to fight against the threat of the titans. Dedicate your hearts. Yes. A deafening roar followed. Today, you will graduate from being trainee soldiers. Now, I'll announce the top 10 trainees with the best training scores. Those whose names are called, step forward. Haruya was mixed in the crowd, listening to the names of the top 10. First place, Mikasa Ackerman. Second place, Rainer Braun. Third place, Berthold Hover. Fourth place, Annie Lenhart. Fifth place, Ren Yeager. All the way to 10th place, Historia Rice. Aside from the instructor's voice, Haruya also heard the supreme deity's voice in his mind. Mission, capture the female titan. It seemed that mission was still a long way off. Chapter 5, Haruya vs. Mikasa, and then. After the names of the top 10 trainees were announced, the trainees disbanded, meaning Haruya could now move freely. Watching the 104th Trainee Corps graduates head toward the restaurant, he stopped. The top 10 trainees had the privilege of choosing to join the garrison regiment, responsible for reinforcing the walls and defending the towns, the Survey Corps, which ventured outside the walls to challenge the Titans at the risk of their lives, or the Military Police Brigade, which maintained order among the people under the king's command. For now, Haruya was just an ordinary graduate trainee. What if he was assigned to the garrison regiment or the Military Police Brigade? That would only push him further away from his mission. Regardless, Haruya thought it was time to figure out how to solve these problems. He didn't need to always be at the center of events, of course, but staying too far from the main cast would mean missing many opportunities. Then, the only chance is at that moment. The only way to prove his worth was to achieve something notable when the colossal titan breached the wall. However, to do that, he would have to learn how to use the omnidirectional mobility gear, ODM gear, which is also known as vertical maneuvering equipment, VME, and master the art of slicing the nape of a titan's neck. Although Haruya's identity was that of a graduate trainee, he had never used the ODM gear before. Who knew what would happen? Even if the setting implied he had passed all the courses, could he really perform in actual combat? Even with his unlimited save-scumming ability, being eaten or crushed by titans repeatedly was something Haruya couldn't accept. The 104th Trainee Corps graduates were preparing to return to their dormitories and then head to the restaurant for dinner. Haruya decided to check out the weapon maintenance depot. If he could get his hands on the ODM gear from the seniors, he could practice at the training grounds. But before that, he needed to figure out where that place was. Since randomly asking people might raise suspicions, he simply followed a crowd. In fact, even if he did raise suspicions, no one would think, you're from another world. Right? It's great that the top 10 get to choose which regiment to join. People like us will probably be sent to the garrison regiment, right? Will the Survey Corps even take us? Who knows? The Survey Corps is indeed elite, but they have to go beyond the walls. Joining the Survey Corps is a mark of being elite, but on the other hand, it's also a form of suicide. 2 new recruits sat on the stairs, drinking water and talking. In this world, for the people, the walls were the dividing line. Outside, a land filled with titans and death. Inside, peaceful towns and survival. However, this belief would soon be shattered again by the colossal titan. Can I ask where the weapon maintenance depot is? Haruya interjected at this point, and the 2 recruits looked at him with some surprise. After all this time, you don't even know where the weapon maintenance depot is? Besides, what are you going there for? Well, I have some things to do. Can you tell me which way to go? Over there. Have you been drinking? When this was still the interior, there were often pranksters stealing bottles from the brewers. The recruit who spoke chuckled bitterly, gazing at the 50-meter-high wall and reminiscing about the past. Speaking of the walls, there were 3 of them. Wall, Maria, Wall, Rose, and Wall, Sina. Now, Wall, Rose had become the outermost wall. I wish I could choose which regiment to join. I want to join the military police brigade. Me too. The garrison regiment is dangerous, and the Survey Corps is just asking for death. The 2 recruits nodded in agreement. Haruya looked at the stairs the recruit had pointed to and said before leaving, but isn't the Survey Corps there to understand the Titans and gather information? Maybe they'll find a way to defeat the Titans. You're definitely an idiot. The 2 recruits didn't hesitate to declare this in response to Haruya's words. If you think the Survey Corps can find a way to defeat the Titans, then 4 years ago, when humanity sent 20% of its population to launch a full-scale attack to reclaim their territory, what happened? Most of them ended up in the stomachs of the Titans. How many more people will have to die to take back the territory? The information the Survey Corps gathers is completely useless. Stop talking. Be careful, the officers might hear you. This guy's just a naive fool. After saying this, the 2 got up and left, disappearing into the night. Following one of their directions, Haruya began walking down the stairs. The weapon maintenance depot should have ODM gear, blades, and gas, right? Hopefully, he could use them for training. Arriving at the main road, Haruya saluted a few older soldiers as he passed by. Thinking about it now, playing a role wasn't as easy as it seemed. Just as he passed through a corridor, Haruya heard someone's voice, "I'm joining the Survey Corps." Hiding to the side, he saw that the people sitting on the stairs at the entrance of the restaurant. Mikasa, Ren, and Armin. "Hey, are you really joining the Survey Corps?" "Ren, I've already decided. I don't want to be a burden to everyone." This conversation sounds familiar. Since things were unfolding as expected, Haruya couldn't help but recall the upcoming plot. The Colossal Titan's next attack isn't far off. "I have to train," he muttered. What did you just say?" The icy tone made Haruya, who was leaning against the wall, reflexively run back the way he came. "Stop." Looking back during a gap, Haruya saw that it was Mikasa, who had been with Ren and the others. How did she even hear me? Looking for an escape route, Haruya felt his shoulder grabbed in the next moment. "I was just joking," he quickly said. Shaking his shoulder, Haruya used the momentum of his run to lean forward, then tried to roll on the ground with his hands. Midway, his movement was interrupted. It was a joint lock. Mikasa's right hand reached out, passing under Haruya's arm. Her left foot stepped forward quickly to stabilize herself, and her right foot swept Haruya's legs out from under him. She then pressed down on Haruya's body with both hands. "I heard you very clearly." "Ugh." With his left cheek pressed against the ground, Haruya looked up at Mikasa under the moonlight. Was she going to be his biggest obstacle? Then, making up his mind. Chapter 6, The Colossal Titan and the First Battle. The first thing Haruya did after loading the checkpoint was to reset his mindset and correct the mistakes he had made earlier. It was easy to understand. After he made a verbal mistake, Mikasa happened to catch it, leading to the unexpected outcome. Most people don't have the chance to start over, which is where the saying "there's no medicine for regret" comes from. However, Haruya was an exception. Correcting mistakes was actually quite simple, provided you had the chance to start over. The moon hung high in the sky, and the faint breeze carried the scent of grass. The training camp was still brightly lit, with trainees and senior officers frequently appearing in his line of sight. Following the same path as before, Haruya once again passed by Ren and the others, but this time he walked past them quickly. He averted his gaze, looking elsewhere. They were indeed the protagonists of this world, but interacting with them now held no meaning. "I'm joining the Survey Corps." Just like before, the conversation between the 3 hadn't changed. "Hey, are you really joining the Survey Corps?" "Ren, I've already decided. I don't want to be a burden to everyone." Armin's voice sounded firm. For them, the walls were like a prison. Even though they could look up at the sky, they were far from free. In fact, this wasn't much different from modern society. Even in the vastness of society, Haruya found it hard to find a place he truly loved. The land wasn't just about cities or countries, it was about finding a place where you wanted to stay for the rest of your life. Haruya considered himself someone with few interests, most of which were tied to the world of anime and manga. This wasn't about escaping reality, as Haruya also enjoyed making friends in real life, even if it was just through a few conversations. The reason he invested so much in the world of anime and manga was that he found it easier to relax there. He didn't crave a life full of excitement, nor did he long for a world full of endless fun. He simply wanted to break free from the monotony of life. Reaching a corner, Haruya glanced at the 3 of them. What they sought wasn't just freedom. What a frustrating world. Whether in reality or in the world of anime and manga, there were many things that didn't go as one wished. The key was to adapt. Here, the Titans weren't just enemies, they were obstacles. If humanity wanted to move forward, they had to overcome these obstacles. Although Haruya hadn't studied the Attack on Titan manga as obsessively as some fans, he believed that most of humanity's disasters were caused by humans themselves. Misfortune, happiness. It was all the same. Haruya didn't dwell on this further. After passing through a small square, he finally arrived at the place the two recruits had told him about. The building was shaped like a round tower, with two torches at the entrance. The wooden door wasn't locked. Looking around, he saw that he was alone. He walked toward the door. Through the crack, he could see the flickering light of a fire inside, along with the sound of footsteps. "Hey, just do a quick check. We'll be back soon anyway, right?" The senior officer seemed to be offering free drinks. "Should we go check it out and then come back to finish the inspection?" "Let's do that." The footsteps grew closer to the door, and Haruya quickly stepped to the side. The door opened, and one of the officers, around 40 years old, saw Haruya. "What are you doing here? A new recruit from the military police brigade?" "No, I'm here for the ODM gears," Haruya answered. "Oh? What for?" Since he didn't have a good reason, Haruya recalled their earlier conversation. "Over at the restaurant, there's a drinking party going on. I'm here to finish the work the officers didn't complete. We didn't get any notice." "Whatever, no one's stupid enough to steal ODM gear to fight Titans. Let's go." The three officers, reeking of alcohol, left the scene, giving Haruya the chance to enter the weapon maintenance depot. Inside, everything was neatly organized. The ODM gears were placed on the left, blades in the middle, and gas canisters on the right. Further inside under the firelight, Haruya also saw spare parts for the ODM gears. For example, the control device, the independent spool for the wires, the gas canister switch, and so on. Grabbing a fully assembled set of ODM gear, he left the depot and closed the door behind him. Phew. Exhaling, Haruya headed toward the training grounds. This time, he didn't need to ask for directions. The further he went, the fewer people he saw. Plus, there were signs along the way. The training grounds were surrounded by wooden fences. Due to the lack of proper lighting, the area was shrouded in darkness. Haruya remembered that in the nearby forest, you could practice fighting Titans. Specifically, the technique of slicing the nape of their necks. Seriously, why couldn't I just be assigned a senior officer role? The supreme deity really had a twisted sense of humor, forcing Haruya to start from the bottom. Just as he was putting on the ODM gear, he realized he had done so fluidly, no struggle whatsoever. Haruya hadn't undergone any training, so was this part of his implanted memories? Taking advantage of the fact that no one had noticed him yet, he entered the training grounds. The temperature around him dropped slightly, but it wasn't a big deal. More importantly, after passing through the training grounds, Haruya entered the forest. The trees here were much taller than usual. Beyond the walls, there was a forest known as the Forest of Giant Trees. Let's start with the basics. Based on what he had gathered from reading the manga, using the ODM gear effectively required utilizing all the muscles in the body. The control device was operated using handles. By pulling the triggers, anchors could be fired from the launchers on either side. The wires were retracted using gas pressure, allowing the anchors to be fired again. The blades used to attack Titans were highly flexible and could be replaced when worn out. Let's give it a try. Even with the implanted memories, wouldn't there still be issues with perfecting the technique? Haruya crouched slightly and swung his right hand. Whoosh! The anchor, connected to the wire, shot out from the launcher and embedded itself into a tree trunk ahead. Haruya then pulled the handle back, and the tension lifted him off the ground. Whoa! His entire body was pulled forward. Just as he was about to reach the limit of the wire and start falling, he swung his left hand. Steam hissed as the right anchor was retracted, and the left anchor shot out. It embedded itself into another tree trunk, and Haruya repeated the motion. Not bad. The wind whistled past his ears as the ODM gear continued to operate, making him feel like Spider-Man. Let's try the next move. Firing the anchor again, Haruya was pulled toward the top of a tree. His field of vision expanded, and he locked onto a wooden Titan target placed on the ground. Its nape was white, visible even in the darkness. Haruya positioned both hands on one side, ready to strike over his shoulder. But then... he lost his balance. The anchor he had just fired retracted too quickly, causing him to crash into the tree trunk and then fall to the ground. His back made intimate contact with the leaf-covered ground, and the impact forced a grunt out of him. The tree shook, and leaves rustled down. Lying on the ground, the moonlight bathed him from above. The sky in this world was truly beautiful. Haruya exhaled and reached out toward the sky. The people here sought freedom and a stable life. If you ignored the Titans, this world would be almost perfect? Unfortunately, that premise didn't exist. Getting up from the ground, Haruya leaned against the tree trunk. Leaves drifted past his eyes, gently landing on the ground. The colossal titan's next attack was drawing near. He had to learn quickly. If you're not attacking titans, the equipment is actually quite convenient. After all, to kill a titan, you had to target their weak spot by considering their position and adjusting your own trajectory. Putting it into practice wasn't as simple as it seemed. It was like juggling while riding a bike. Quite difficult. Crack a sound reached Haruya's ears, the sound of a branch being stepped on. Gripping the blade in his right hand, he turned around and held it up like a shield. Thud. The blade was kicked, and Haruya stumbled back a few steps. You are. Under the moonlight, her golden hair shone brightly even in the darkness. She lowered her raised foot and took a sip from the cup of tea she was holding. Annie Lenhart. Haruya muttered her name, momentarily unsure of what to do. It wasn't that he couldn't act, it was that his thoughts consumed him entirely. Annie Lenhart. This girl was his target, the true identity of the female titan. If Haruya captured Annie now and reported her to the Survey Corps, would that count as completing the mission? No, he'd probably be seen as an idiot. After all, humanity hadn't yet witnessed humans transforming into titans, nor had they seen Ren's transformation. Therefore, taking action now would undoubtedly put him at a disadvantage, forcing him to reload a checkpoint. That would be a waste of energy. Haruya reached this conclusion. The mission was to capture the female titan, not Annie Lenhart. You're also from the 104th Trainee Corps, right? Why are you here? He needed to come up with a reason. Wait, why am I the one being questioned? Then, why are you here, Annie Lenhart? I saw someone sneaking around, so I came to check. Annie, dressed in casual clothes, spoke calmly. Haruya scratched his head and started walking toward the exit. When attacking, make sure to secure your anchors properly. You don't need to constantly focus on controlling the launchers. She said. Huh? Annie's words, spoken as she turned her back to Haruya, sounded like advice. Is she giving me tips? Haruya pondered this as he left the training grounds. After a day or two of free time, Haruya finally got the hang of operating the ODM gear. 3 days later, as a member of the 104th Trainee Corps, Haruya was assigned to the fixed artillery maintenance team. Standing on the wall, he could see the vast terrain and horizon in the distance. The endless expanse of land showed no signs of enemies. Holding a tool, he stood by the artillery cannon's muzzle, using a rod to clear the barrel. At that moment, he overheard Ren and the others talking. You're joining the Survey Corps? Yeah, I've made up my mind. Connie replied to Ren. Just as Haruya had expected, everyone was moved by Ren's speech. Staying in the interior and seeking protection wouldn't solve anything. Haruya shook off his wandering thoughts and focused on his task. Maintaining the fixed artillery was relatively simple. The more complex tasks were handled by the science division. Hey, recruit. Don't slack off. Someone shoved Haruya from behind, and 3 people walked past him toward another direction. It seemed these guys hadn't grasped the situation yet. Even though they had enjoyed a few years of peace, it was merely the calm before the storm. Humanity's counterattack had only just begun, and it was also the start of their greatest misfortune. Hey. Do you want to end up in solitary confinement? Stealing meat from the senior officers' storages. Hee, it's fine if we slice it up and put it in bread. Sasha, the foodie, said this with drool dripping from her mouth. Besides, once we reclaim the land, there'll be more cows and sheep. Sasha continued while searching for tools. You guys, seriously? Ren looked exasperated. Gazing at the vast land, Haruya dropped the tool in his hand and gripped the handles of the ODM gear. The plot had progressed to this point. So it's about time. Before Haruya could fully prepare, it happened. Steam and a fierce wind. Boom. The gas seemed to explode with a deafening roar. The fierce wind swept across the wall's platform, and the hot steam obscured everyone's vision in an instant. Everything on the platform was blown away. People screamed as they fell toward the ground below. Everyone. Amid the chaos, Ren took charge, used the ODM gears. Pew. 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 Anchors connected to wires shot into the wall. Haruya also activated his gear, but he moved faster, heading back toward the platform. Flying through the air, Haruya saw the skinless colossal titan before him. We meet again. Ren arrived shortly after. Boom. Crash. Below, the colossal titan kicked through the wall. Seeing the two of them, the colossal titan swung its right arm. Here it comes. Haruya sprang into action. What he did next would lay the foundation for his future plans. Hey. You're from the maintenance team, right? Attack from both sides. Understood. Ren took off from the left. Haruya followed from the right. His clothes flapped in the fierce wind as his vision rapidly shifted. Here we go, my first battle. Chapter 7, The Vanguard and the Titans. If we were to use the Neo Armstrong Cyclone Jet Armstrong cannon, could we annihilate all the Titans invading within the walls? Although it's a somewhat crude cannon, it has left a significant mark in history and is not something easily forgotten. However, in this world, humans primarily use wall-mounted artillery with explosive shells as ammunition. If humans possessed ultra-powerful artillery, one shot could reduce the Titans to dust, rendering their threat insignificant. Haruya made a second assumption: what if modern weapons were used to fight the Titans? Things like fighter jets, tanks, and even nuclear bombs could easily handle them, right? But obtaining such weapons is fundamentally impossible, unless that bastard supreme deity suddenly decides to experiment with such ideas. Ah, that's never going to happen. Haruya manipulated the ODM gear, attacking from the right. The hooks pierced the left shoulder of the colossal Titan, using the tension to pull Haruya closer to the nape of the Titan's neck. For him, the colossal Titan's movements were extremely slow. Despite its massive attack range, as long as he relied on the ODM gear, he could easily dodge its attacks. It was like humans trying to swat a cockroach. To the cockroach, human movements are also very slow. That said, the high-temperature steam emitted by the Titan slightly obscured his vision, but he could still make out the muscles within the mist. The wind howled in his ears, and the sunlight streaming down from above didn't feel warm at all. Instead, it sent a chill down his spine. The surroundings rushed past as Haruya used the hooks to reach the Titan's right arm, then prepared for a second maneuver. Not far away, Ren had already dodged the colossal Titan's first attack and was ready to strike its nape with his blades. It's about time. Standing at a 90-degree angle on the colossal Titan's arm, Haruya watched Ren's every move. According to the plot, the moment Ren attacks, the colossal Titan will disappear. Although there might be some changes to the plot, Haruya didn't want that to happen. He was a methodical person, just like how he planned to watch new anime episodes or attend conventions. Without a plan, he would lose his sense of direction. Die. I can do this. Ren, wielding his dual blades, used the ODM gear to close in on the colossal Titan's nape. He swung his blades, and a flash of light followed. Boom. Steam erupted instantly, and Ren's attack missed. Haruya also lost his footing. Firing the hooks into the wall, Haruya stood on the outer side of the wall and heard voices from above. The colossal Titan has disappeared. Did Ren defeat it? No. Ren stared at the massive footprints on the ground. It appeared suddenly and disappeared just as suddenly, just like 5 years ago. Hey! The wall has been breached. The garrison is engaging the Titans that have broken through. Everyone, move to support. Several soldiers shouted, and Haruya nodded, retracting his hooks and returning to the top of the wall. Inside the section of the wall kicked open by the colossal Titan, the garrison and wall-mounted artillery were holding off the approaching Titans. The warning bells rang, urging people to evacuate to the inner districts with minimal belongings. You there? Report to that area immediately. Anyone who has made contact with it, remember to report later. Good luck to the Vanguard. Right. Haruya and the other trainees rushed toward the assembly point. His goal was simple: achieve a good performance and join the Survey Corps. Only by joining the Survey Corps could he get closer to their plans. The female Titan incident would be discovered later. For now, the most important thing was to wait. Haruya didn't want to play the hero, as that would come at too great a cost. All trainees under the command of the garrison will assist with resource supply, information relay, and Titan cleanup. The officer on the platform spoke sternly. The vanguard will be led by the garrison, the middle guard by the trainee corps, and the rear guard by the elite forces of the garrison. This was the simplest and most efficient arrangement. Looking up at the sky, smoke was already spreading. Some houses crushed by falling debris were on fire, and Titans could invade at any moment. I'm so scared. Don't worry, I'll protect you. Why is this happening? Desertion here was a capital offense. But they also knew that fighting Titans often meant becoming their next meal. Everyone, remember, desertion equals death. Dedicate your hearts to victory. Yes. After shouting in unison, Haruya finally had a moment to relax. Having just witnessed the real colossal Titan, he realized it was completely different from what he had imagined. Without skin, stepping on it felt like stepping on boiled, skinless pork, and there was a strong smell of blood. Not only that, but the excessive steam made the surface wet, and the expelled gas caused the muscles to shift. This wasn't something virtual. It was real. Ugh. Several trainees suddenly vomited. For them, fighting Titans was akin to a death sentence. What a strange world this is. Haruya sighed, then felt a pat on his back. You, trainee. Don't even think about running away. Yes. Standing up, Haruya saluted. Rather than running, he wanted to get closer to the main cast. At that moment, Mikaze was called away by the rear guard officer. Despite wanting to stay, she ultimately couldn't. Watching her retreating figure, Haruya muttered to himself, I hope things develops as I imagine. What do you mean? Appearing beside him was Armin. You said you hope things develop as you imagine. What do you mean by that? Ahaha, forget that. Don't we have a mission? Why are you so calm? Should I act scared? Haruya thought that even if he didn't show fear, others might see it as bravado. Being suspected by Armin wasn't a good start. Ren was giving orders up ahead, Squad 34, move out. Right. Despite giving Haruya a suspicious look, Armin ultimately prioritized the current situation. Following behind them, Haruya pondered how to clear up the misunderstanding. He didn't need to load a checkpoint for this, as he had thought of a way to solve the problem along the way. Following Squad 35, Haruya used the ODM gear to navigate the streets, spotting Titan shadows ahead. Has the vanguard collapsed already? Even though they acted all high and mighty earlier. A few people ahead were chatting when Ren suddenly looked to the side. Abnormal Titan. Evade. Boom. The charging abnormal crashed into a building. The structure shook, and wooden debris scattered as the Titan pulled its head out, already chewing on someone. It was Thomas, the trainee who had been talking to Ren earlier. Thomas. As Ren shouted, Haruya had already sprung into action. Jumping off the roof, he used the ODM hooks to pierce the Titan's shoulder, then used the other hook to pull himself forward, maintaining a stable angle. Spinning his body, Haruya took advantage of the opening and shouted, "What are you waiting for?" Retracting the hook from the Titan's shoulder, Haruya slashed the Titan's jaw muscles, forcing its mouth open. Thomas, who had been bitten in the lower half, fell from the abnormal's mouth, and Ren caught him. Originally, Thomas would have died here. Since Haruya didn't need to cut the abnormal's nape, he used the ODM gear to change angles and attack from another direction. Haruya. Though he didn't know who called his name, Haruya spotted another Titan. Another abnormal. It wasn't particularly tall, but it was incredibly fast, capable of short-distance jumps. The small abnormal opened its mouth to bite Haruya, who quickly tried to change his initial direction but lost control. His body fell toward the ground, but he used a right hook to latch onto a nearby Titan. Ugh! He was too slow. The other abnormal swung its arm at Haruya. Boom! He sliced the abnormal's fingers as it grabbed him, but the impact sent him crashing into a wall. The Titan attacking Haruya ran toward him, and one side of his ODM gear was damaged from the collision. This is bad. Just as he thought that, someone rushed over, grabbed my hand. Huh? Oh. Armin jumped down from another rooftop, leaping over the Titan and extending his right hand. Haruya retracted the ODM gear and grabbed Armin's hand, safely returning to the rooftop. Stop the bleeding. He has a large wound on his abdomen, possibly damaging his organs. Thomas, whom Haruya had saved, was pale and motionless from blood loss. Armin started, that was too reckless. Ignoring Armin's impending lecture, Haruya asked a question, by the way, how do you know my name? Though he received an answer that wasn't exactly straightforward, I remember everyone's name. Oh well, that was just Armin's style. Thanks for earlier. No problem. Leaning against the rooftop chimney, Haruya took deep breaths. After Ren thanked him, he looked toward the distant streets. We need to keep moving. Hide Thomas somewhere safe. There's an attic below, right? After securing the injured, the group continued toward the front lines. Perhaps due to Haruya's earlier actions, the others began to see the Titans in a slightly different light. They weren't entirely invincible. However, the two abnormals would become Squad 34's nightmare. To advance further, they had to take them down. Split up and attack. If you can't cut them, try to cripple their movements. Ren took the lead. Ren, wait. Before Armin's warning could reach him, a Titan appeared below Ren and opened its mouth. Wait. The others followed, but the abnormals wouldn't let anyone escape. The Titan below Ren bit off his left foot. The trainees trying to attack the abnormal Titans were thrown off balance by the Titan's interference, losing control. Two were caught, and one fell to the ground. Even if Haruya wanted to change the fated events, it seemed impossible. That Thomas guy would probably die from blood loss too. No, no. The trainees' screams echoed as blood splattered across the battlefield, marking the beginning of a nightmare. Haruya tried to pull Armin into action, but he stood frozen. Why? Armin, hey, Armin, ugh. Haruya, trying to snap Armin out of it, was blown back by a shockwave. The Titan that had crashed into the building was now chasing him. Damn it. Using the ODM gear to reach another rooftop, Haruya saw that Armin had already been thrown into the Titan's mouth. No, no. Hearing Armin's screams, Haruya focused on another area. Should I flee? Since he couldn't stop or change anything, the only option was to maintain the status quo and ensure his own survival. More Titans were appearing everywhere. On another rooftop, Ren used his blades to stand and then jumped into the Titan's mouth. Pulling Armin out, Ren was then swallowed. By the time Mikasa and the elite forces arrived, only Haruya and Armin remained from Squad 34. Standing at a distance, Haruya listened to their conversation. "We're almost out of gas." Just as he had imagined. On the other side, Mikasa approached Armin, asking about Ren. Just as hope could be shattered by despair, despair could also give birth to hope. The moment of hope was about to arrive. But why was Mikasa walking toward him? Haruya turned his head away, preparing to leave. But before he could, he was grabbed. Her grip was strong, and his arm hurt. Haruya glanced at her. "What are you doing?" "Armin told me what happened earlier." "Why are you unharmed?" "Skill issue." She ignored him and continued, "Letting others take the lead while you stayed back to avoid danger?" "No way, As Haruya spoke, the others who had arrived were now in dire straits. Mikasa glanced at the situation behind her and released Haruya's arm. "If we can take out the enemies gathered at headquarters, we can get everyone onto the wall for resupply, right?" "Yes, but even with you here, that number is..." Marco Bot believed Mikasa couldn't succeed. Even if everyone attacked together, it would be nearly impossible. "If we don't fight, we can't win." "Right." Stretching his wrist, Haruya stepped forward. "Let me prove that I wasn't running away earlier." As the vanguard, Haruya and Mikasa rushed toward the wall where the gas resupply was located. Chapter 8, Haruya vs. Ren. Standing on the rooftop of a building, Haruya's gaze fell on the headquarters surrounded by Titans in the distance. The Titans' target was undoubtedly the supply team inside the headquarters. Once the outer wall was breached, those inside would face certain death. Not only was the supply team in danger, but most of the trainees, including Haruya, were running low on gas, leaving them in a dire situation. After several days of practice, Haruya estimated he could go all out for a few more minutes with the remaining gas. Of course, if he conserved it, he could last over 5 minutes, but probably not more than 10. The priority now was to end the battle quickly. All he needed to do was follow Mikasa's lead. "Since you're planning to take the vanguard too, you handle the Titans on the right. I'll take the ones on the left. The others will deal with any Titans that slip through." Mikasa glanced back. Thanks to her, the timid trainees had found their courage. The distance wasn't too far, but for those here, it could be a path straight to hell. Mikasa's black hair swayed, obscuring her expression. After taking a deep breath, she jumped off the rooftop. Without hesitation, Haruya followed. The ODM gear was highly effective in human settlements, but performing complex maneuvers and precise cuts required a lot of gas. This surreal device demanded significant effort to master. If not for his prior training, Haruya estimated it would have taken him about a month to get the hang of it. If that were the case, he would probably be stuck in the logistics division or worse, expelled and living as a civilian. The scenery on both sides of the street rushed past. Corpses and ruins flashed before his eyes for just a moment. In the next instant, a 10-meter Titan appeared in front of Haruya. The towering figure raised its right arm, swinging it toward him as it charged. The right hook pierced the Titan's raised arm, pulling Haruya closer while he retracted it. Using the left hook embedded in a building, he dodged the attack. The Titan's right arm came crashing down with a whoosh, smashing a rooftop and sending wood and debris flying. Seizing the opening after the Titan's attack, Haruya fired the right hook again, this time into the back of the Titan's head. Pulling himself forward, Haruya crossed his arms like scissors, spinning slightly to slice through the Titan's nape. In the corner of his left eye, he spotted his next target, an abnormal, not particularly tall, but a tricky opponent. As the 10-meter Titan Haruya had attacked collapsed, he was already airborne. Boom. The impact caused his eardrums to ring, and the surrounding sound seemed to fade. The abnormal he had seen earlier leaped into the air. Not only was the leaping abnormal a threat, but 2 more Titans were closing in from Haruya's right. Ugh. This is bad. In midair, Haruya swung like a pendulum, using the hooks to change direction. As the leaping abnormal attacked, he fired a hook into its body. Pulling himself closer, the leaping Titan reached out with its right hand to grab him. Haruya slashed with both blades in quick succession, severing the Titan's fingers and escaping its grasp. Since the leaping Titan was already in midair, its descent gave Haruya a second burst of momentum. Falling alongside the Titan, Haruya retracted his hooks just as the 2 Titans closed in. Got you. As the leaping Titan crashed to the ground, Haruya fired a hook into a nearby eave, using it to swing around and flank the 2 Titans. Ha! With a horizontal slash, Haruya severed both Titans' napes. The right hook latched onto a rooftop in the distance, allowing Haruya to escape the danger zone. In an instant, 3 Titans fell. The leaping abnormal, now disoriented from the crash, was finished off by the others. Huff, huff. Standing on the rooftop, Haruya gasped for air. Taking down 3 titans had left him breathless. He clearly needed more training. Meanwhile, Mikasa was like a whirlwind in the air, seamlessly replacing her blades the moment they shattered. Those were her last blades. Behind her, more than 5 titan corpses littered the path to headquarters. After dealing with a titan nearby, Haruya rushed toward the headquarters. Just as he was about a building's length away, Mikasa, now out of gas, plummeted. Without the ODM gear, she was as good as dead. Standing on the rooftop, Haruya noticed a massive hole behind him, likely caused by a falling titan. His gaze fell on Mikasa, kneeling on the ground as a titan approached her. It's about time. Pushing his hair out of his face, Haruya wiped the blood off his cheek. Exhaling, he noticed a strange stench filling the air. The trainees saw Mikasa fall, and some formed a rescue team to rush to her aid. But they were too slow. Step by step, the titan closed in. Mikasa stood up, gripping her blades, ready for one last stand. In that moment, the titan in front of her was attacked by another titan from behind. A powerful right fist smashed the attacking titan's head, causing it to collapse. The ground shook as the attacking titan roared in fury, a roar filled with human wrath. Ren. Confirming the plot's progression, Haruya kept his distance, staying in a safe spot while remaining close to the action. Boom. 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 Ren, now in titan form, stomped on the fallen titan, roaring in rage. The trainees paused, stunned by the sudden turn of events. Armin rescued Mikasa, and Haruya moved closer. Drawing a new blade, Haruya sliced through another titan's nape and finally reached his destination. The trainees gathered, watching as Ren took down a second titan. Ren's titan form was incredibly powerful now, but it also posed a threat to the others. Ren assumed a fighting stance, catching Mikasa's attention. But more importantly, the trainees were focused on escaping to the headquarters to resupply their gas. We can't. Everyone's running out of gas. I'll give you my gas canister, Mikasa. Armin handed his gas canister to Mikasa, as she was the strongest fighter among the trainees. Haruya looked at his nearly depleted blades. Several trainees suddenly offered him their spare blades. You're strong, right? Take our blades. Please. These trainees had seen Haruya in action and recognized his strength. Accepting the blades, he equipped them to his ODM gear. I'll do my best. If he lived up to their expectations, Haruya knew he could boost his reputation among the trainees, increasing his chances of joining the Survey Corps. Setting aside his damaged blades, he equipped the new ones. Nearby, Mikasa also received a new gas canister for her ODM gear. The 2 vanguards were ready to fight again. She looked at Haruya and said, "You're strong." "Thank you." To think I'd earned Mikasa's praise. Just as the 2 prepared to move, Armin called out to the trainees about to charge, "I have a plan." It was a plan that left everyone astonished. Haruya sat on the wooden rooftop as Armin crouched down, using sticks and stones to represent their positions, the Titans' locations, and Ren's Titan form. As you all saw, that strange Titan is attacking other Titans. This is the first time I've seen a Titan behave like this. Moving the stone representing Ren's Titan, Armin continued, "If we assume that this strange Titan will keep attacking others, we can clear the Titans around it and lure it toward the headquarters, where it can fight the Titans gathered there. Will that work? Most of us are almost out of gas. It's our only option. It has to work." Armin spoke with grim determination, and no one dared to argue. Their only way out. Their only hope. Let's do it. Everyone agreed to Armin's plan, focusing their efforts around Ren's Titan form. Like before, Haruya led the team to clear the Titans on the right, while Mikasa handled the left. They left only the Titans in the street leading to the headquarters. Don't die, everyone. Right. Lowering his raised blade, Haruya used the ODM gear to fly toward Ren's Titan form. There were still many Titans inside the walls, but most in this district had been cleared by Haruya and the others, leaving only those near the headquarters. Gripping his blades tightly, Haruya navigated the streets with his hooks, targeting the Titans' napes before attacking. No. Suddenly, within Haruya's line of sight, 2 trainees were grabbed by an abnormal, which was already chewing on half of another person. Damn it. As the Titan in front of him collapsed, Haruya fired a hook into a building's support beam. Swinging through the air, he fired another hook into the abnormal's back as he descended. There was no time to cut its nape, so he quickly moved behind the Titan, severing the tendons in its legs. The now injured abnormal twisted its body to face Haruya. Seizing the opportunity, Haruya circled the Titan, spinning as he sliced through its fingers. Now! Several trainees caught the 2 rescued trainees midair and brought them to the relative safety of the rooftop. Time to hunt the next one. Clear. As Haruya made his decision, Mikasa's team had already cleared the Titans on the left. Haruya's side was almost done. Huh? Before he realized it, he was airborne. The spot where he had been standing was smashed by a titan. The deafening roar drew everyone's attention. Ren's titan form, having flung a titan aside, roared at the sky. With no immediate target, he began moving toward the headquarters. Or so it seemed. Boom. After a few steps, Ren's titan form punched the ground where Haruya had been, sending him flying again. Haruya fired his hooks to avoid the next attack. Hey, hey, hey. Ren didn't let up, chasing Haruya relentlessly. Haruya. Lure him toward the headquarters. I'll try. Following Armin's advice, Haruya changed direction, heading for the headquarters. But Ren was too fast. In an instant, the ground cracked as Ren's massive fist came crashing down. What now? Have I become Ren's target? Using the speed from the ODM gear, Haruya barely escaped Ren's pursuit. Boom. As Haruya swung through the air, a titan's head smashed the eave where his hook was embedded, throwing him off balance. Watch out. Hearing the warning, Haruya sensed movement behind him. It wasn't the sound of Ren running, it was the wind. A kick from Ren's right leg. Haruya fired his left hook, pulling himself to the side while using the right hook to change direction. He spun around, aiming for Ren's right leg. To relieve the pressure, he planned to sever the tendons in Ren's right leg. But as if sensing Haruya's intent, Ren stopped his kick mid-motion and instead slammed his entire body into Haruya. At this rate, I'll be killed. Thinking on his feet, Haruya cut the wire of his right hook, losing balance but gaining speed. Like a swinging pendulum, he latched onto a nearby building's wall just as Ren's titan form completely destroyed the house beside him. Breathing in the dust-filled air, Haruya retracted his only remaining hook. The debris from the destroyed house scattered as Haruya prepared to rejoin the group. Roar. Ren emerged from the rubble, charging toward Haruya and destroying everything in his path. This is such a pain. The intense impact forced Haruya to retreat, but the area near the headquarters was still swarming with enemies. So, he chose to return to the ground. What are you doing, Haruya? Going to the ground is suicide. Watching Ren charge, Haruya fired his left hook. It pierced Ren's chest area, just as Ren's fist came crashing down. Haruya cut the wire of his ODM gear, letting himself fall to avoid Ren's attack trajectory. Before Ren could strike again, Haruya drove his left blade into Ren's leg and slashed at the back of his right heel with the right blade. Ren's titan form crashed forward, drawing the attention of the titans near the headquarters. Finally, success. Haruya sighed. Sitting on the ground, he saw the bodies of several trainees around him. Are you okay? Someone lifted Haruya from the side, carrying him back to the rooftop. Mikasa looked at Haruya, then at the titans clashing below. You did well, but don't pull such suicidal stunts again. Her cold yet caring words were worth the effort for Haruya. Haruya. You're amazing. You didn't panic at all. You're like a hero. The trainees showered him with praise. Chapter 9, The Plan and the Strongest Rokinangu. Haruya died. An utterly unexpected death at that. The cause? During Ren's battle with the titans, the ground shook violently, causing Haruya to slip and fall from the third floor of the headquarters. Since his ODM gear was being refilled with gas, he wasn't equipped with it, leaving him unable to use his hooks. Midair, a titan snapped him up, biting his body in half. How should he describe it? The sensation of being chewed up by a titan was peculiar. In that moment, he felt no pain, only the thought, I died again. Many might find Haruya's actions strange. Why didn't he use his ability before dying? There were two reasons. First, he might not have had time to react. Second, he wanted to understand the cause of his death, the process, and the object that killed him. Only by understanding these could he avoid repeating the same mistakes. Otherwise, he would remain trapped in the shadow of his previous death. In short, to alter the timeline of his death, Haruya would use save scumming after dying, then change his actions to avoid the same fate. Before falling and being crushed by the titan, Haruya saw the shocked and horrified expressions of the trainees. To them, he was already a strong fighter, yet he had died from a mere slip. What misfortune! After loading a checkpoint, Haruya watched Ren's battle with the titans while stepping away from the broken third-floor wall. He quickly retrieved his ODM gear. As expected, Ren's titan form swiftly defeated the surrounding titans, roaring in fury. Every punch, every kick, landed brutally on the heads and torsos of the titans, splattering blood and flesh across the battlefield. Ren's rage fueled his strength, and every titan in sight fell to his attacks. But more titans were closing in. Let's move. Use the shotguns to fight. With titans breaking into the headquarters, the group devised a plan. One team would take the freight elevator down to the shaft, using shotguns to draw the titans' attention. Once the titans were close, they would fire to blind them. Another team would then strike from behind, slicing the titans' napes. This approach would maximize the efficiency of eliminating Titans while minimizing risk. Of course, the latter team, the ones cutting the napes, needed exceptional skill and calm judgment. Otherwise, if the Titans regained their sight, the team in the freight elevator would be in grave danger. Haruya was naturally assigned to the latter team. Everyone, get ready. Will this really work? It's our only option. I understand. Some of the trainees in the shotgun team looked visibly nervous. Once everything was set, Haruya and Mikaza's team positioned themselves on the beams above and waited for the right moment. The Titans that had broken into the headquarters were drawn to the humans, surging toward them. Can we fire yet? Wait, not yet. Some were breathing heavily, others looked tense. The Titans were now less than 3 meters away from the shotgun team. Fire. The rapid gunfire signaled the start of the plan. The Titans, blinded by the shots, lost their vision. This was the chance. Haruya and the others leaped from the beams. Without using his ODM gear, he identified a Titan's nape below and slashed down with both blades. With the familiar sensation of his blades cutting through skin and muscle, the Titan Haruya struck collapsed. Without hesitation, Haruya fired his hooks into another Titan that hadn't fallen yet. Pulling himself closer, he sliced its nape, saving a teammate. Thank you. No problem. Haruya shrugged. Huff, huff. Sasha, who had made a mistake earlier, leaned against a wall, pale-faced. Everyone else breathed a sigh of relief. Alright, it's time to regroup with the main force. Once on the rooftop with their gas canisters refilled, they no longer had to worry about running out of gas mid-fight. As they planned to regroup, Ren's Titan form was surrounded by other Titans, pinned against a building and being torn apart. Mikaza, considering whether to help, was stopped by Armin. For now, regrouping and planning the next move was crucial. Standing on the rooftop, Haruya surveyed the surroundings. The ruins left by the Titan's destruction were a stark reminder of the world's cruelty. Hey! Look at that! Amid the steam and smoke around a Titan's nape, Ren appeared. Mikaza. Mikaza was the first to move, rushing over to carry Ren away. Armin followed closely. Haruya stood among the crowd, while the other trainees began to piece together the only possible explanation. That Titan. Could it be Ren? The events unfolded just as Haruya had expected. This accident would lead to Ren's trial. Humans hated Titans, and Ren was now seen as a human who could become a Titan, making him a target. But this also brings me closer to my mission. After Ren demonstrated his ability to transform into a Titan, the Colossal Titan and the Armored Titan would take notice, and the female Titan would soon appear as well. All Haruya could do now was wait. After regrouping, Ren and the others were surrounded by the military at a corner of the wall. The situation would undoubtedly play out as expected, so Haruya decided to leave and find somewhere to pass the time. After all, the subsequent events wouldn't change much. Hey! You there, trying to run away? Huh? And no, that's not it. Get over here. Haruya, who had only taken a few steps, was grabbed by an officer and warned that desertion would result in execution. Staying within the crowd, Haruya watched the situation unfold. Now, it was Armin's turn to speak. His goal was to prove Ren's value to everyone. If we use Ren's Titan power, we can definitely turn the tide. Wanting to expedite the mission, Haruya gently pushed past the officer. I agree. Huh? Everyone turned to look at this sudden outburst from a trainee. Haruya continued, let Ren who can transform into a Titan lift that boulder over there and plug the hole in the wall destroyed by the Colossal Titan. What nonsense. How can we trust a Titan? The officer, Keith Shades, grabbed Haruya by the collar, but before he could say more, the soldiers began to disperse. This trainee is right. The one who spoke was Commander Pixis. Pixis, Supreme Commander of the Southern Garrison. He continued, though I've only just arrived, I've been briefed on the situation. You, take command of the reinforcements. As for me. Pixis looked at the surrounded trio, I'd like to hear what they have to say. Then, turning to Haruya, Pixis added, you, come with me. But first, fetch me some wine. Understood. Haruya nodded. The immediate crisis was averted. Haruya ran to the warehouse to grab a bottle of fine wine, then joined Pixis atop Walrose. Up there, Pixis was speaking with the trio. Handing the wine to Pixis, Haruya sat down, catching his breath. Good work, trainee Haruya. It's rare to have the chance to enjoy wine these days. Now, Armin, what you said earlier about using Titan power to reclaim the city, was that a lie to save your lives, or can it truly be done? I doubt it's true. Armin answered nervously. Don't worry, I'll protect your lives. And you Ren, can you really plug that hole? I'll do it, no matter what. Ren affirmed with vigor. Call the staff. We need to draft a battle plan. Pixis shouted down the wall, make us proud, young soldiers. Thus began the operation to reclaim Trost District. With no technology to repair the wall, this operation was seen as a suicide mission by many. It appeared the enemy wasn't just the Titans, it was also the soldiers below the wall. Faced with what seemed like a reckless plan, the soldiers began to riot, their morale shaken. However, Pixis shouted, "Attention!" His booming voice temporarily silenced the soldiers. "The operation to reclaim Trost District begins now. We will plug the hole in the gate." Then he continued, "Before that, let me introduce trainee Ren Yeager. He is the successful subject of our Titan transformation experiments. He can control his Titan form at will. He will lift the boulder near the front gate and plug the hole in the wall." No one believed it. The soldiers weren't willing to throw their lives away. At this moment, Pixis's following words stopped them in their tracks. "I hereby pardon anyone who leaves here." He slowly glanced around them and continued, "Those who have succumbed to the fear of Titans can no longer fight them. Those who know the terror of the Titans, leave now." Then he said, "Those who wish for their loved ones to experience that terror, leave as well." The hesitant soldiers stepped forward. Seeing the effect of his words, Pixis waved at Haruya. "Trainee Haruya, I have a small task for you." "Huh?" Haruya was caught off guard. "Though I don't know why you weren't in the top 10 of your class, your achievements aren't just luck, are they? Well, you're strong. So, I want you to join them and protect Ren." "Understood." "Also," Pixis, as if seeing through Haruya, added, "don't even think about sneaking away." "Ugh." After checking his equipment, refilling his ODM gear, and replenishing his blades, Haruya followed the garrison's vanguard, the elite squad along the wall. Leading the group were Ian Dietrich of the elite squad and Rico Brzezinska, the messenger. "This is the spot." Jumping off the wall, they used their ODM gear to head toward the boulder near the front gate. Quickly closing the distance, Ren at the front bit his hand midair. Boom. A burst of gas erupted as his Titan form crashed into a building. Emerging from the rubble, the group positioned themselves on the rooftops, waiting for Ren to lift the boulder. But the next moment, Ren's Titan form swung its left fist at Mikasa. "I knew it. There's no such thing as a human secret weapon." Rico fired a red signal flare, indicating that the operation had encountered a major obstacle. To everyone else, it seemed like the plan had failed. "The operation has failed. Retreat now. A 6-meter and a 10-meter Titan are approaching." "No," Rico corrected herself, "a 12-meter Titan is also coming." "Ian, we need to leave." "Wait." Mikasa stopped them, looking at Ren. "Are we just going to leave Ren here? We've already lost hundreds of people for this so-called secret weapon." "But they had to save him." At this point, Ian voiced his opinion, "Ren is humanity's last hope. As long as he's alive, we have a chance at victory." "But don't you see the situation we're in?" Rico's expression was grim. "If they didn't leave now, they'd be surrounded." Seeing the situation unfold, Haruya knew he had to buy time before Armin arrived. Here's what he'd do. Haruya stepped into the conversation. "You all stay here and protect Ren. I'll handle all the Titans around us." "Have you lost your mind?" "Not at all." Haruya scanned the area. "I believe trainee Mikasa knows what I'm capable of. If you're willing." Hearing Mikasa's words, the elite squad exchanged doubtful glances but ultimately agreed to Haruya's plan. "Who is that trainee?" In response to Rico's question, Ian recalled what Pixis had told him before they left. Observing the situation, he replied, "Commander Pixis said that trainee Haruya might just be the strongest graduate." Meanwhile, after counting, there were 4 Titans in the area. Time to prepare for reload. As long as he could spam save scumming, Haruya could predict the future. Chapter 10, the self-proclaimed hero and humanity's strongest. The core figure for the operation to reclaim Trost District was Ren. Only his Titan form could lift the massive boulder and plug the hole in the wall. To ensure the success of this operation, the garrison was divided into several units. Aside from the vanguard unit Haruya had joined, there were others ready to provide support, and some tasked with drawing the Titan's attention away from Ren. At this moment, standing on the outer wall of the clock tower, Haruya spotted 4 Titans approaching. Just like before, there was a 6-meter Titan, a 10-meter Titan, a 12-meter Titan, and an 8-meter Titan. "If I don't want to be surrounded, I need to attack the Titan on the left first. But that might allow the Titan on the right to slip past me. Starting from the right reduces that risk, but it increases the chance of being surrounded." As Haruya pondered his plan, Mikasa and the others were protecting Ren a few hundred meters behind him. Armin was probably about to arrive as well. In this situation, there's only one option. To ensure the operation's success, I'll have to risk being surrounded. Wiping the sweat from his forehead with his blade-wielding hand, Haruya wondered if this life was exciting or boring. In truth, being transported to another world wasn't something to celebrate. So far, He considered his greatest fortune to be his inability to die. Though this immortality only applied to accidental deaths. If he died of old age, even safe scumming would be useless. Haruya wasn't that foolish, of course. As long as he had checkpoints, he could infinitely return to his original life and keep living. But some people might find the monotony of daily life dull, so it was necessary to make some changes. If possible, once I return my original world, I should try being a terrorist. After all, even back in his world, Haruya would still have his ability, allowing him to plan the perfect crime, right? That said, the Nangu Haruya of the original world was already dead. If he returned now, he'd have to start over. A new environment, a new life. He really hoped to find a new girlfriend. Definitely not something like his hands. Exhaling, Haruya held his blade in front of him, convinced that the supreme deity had deliberately placed him in this situation. Originally, I was hoping to become a titan or something. After all, that would have made it easier to capture Annie. Looking up, the sunlight was blinding. Squinting slightly, Haruya retracted the hooks embedded in the clock tower. Let's begin. The streets provided excellent mobility aids, especially the eaves and chimneys. To safely close the distance with the titans required extensive movement and judgment. The titans' intentions, their movements, the distance between them. If you played enough games, you could subconsciously learn to process this information. With enough practice, you could become a master. Though compared to single-player games, multiplayer real-time strategy games are more fun. Aside from strategically conquering some gal games, Haruya also played popular games like Dota. Haruya had dabbled in StarCraft and Warcraft 3, but in Dota, a single victory meant defeating 9 opponents, unlike StarCraft's one-on-one battles. Another factor was that 1v1 games required extremely high APM, and Haruya wasn't that fast or precise. But here, it's more than enough. Recalling the days when he used a numpad and worked to execute 7 skills in 2 seconds, Haruya focused on the 10-meter titan ahead. After jumping down from the clock tower, he confirmed his target and began closing the distance. The 10-meter titan wasn't as fast as expected. After passing through an empty market, Haruya fired his hooks into a building beside the titan. The gas from the ODM gear left a distinct trail of mist in the air, leading to Haruya, who was ready to attack. The other 3 titans noticed him and began moving toward him. The 10-meter titan raised its right arm and swung down. Haruya left his previous position just as the building was effortlessly destroyed. Firing his hooks into the titan's right armpit, he pulled himself closer as the titan raised its left arm. Whoosh! The sound of wind rushed past his ears as the titan's left arm missed. Retracting his hooks, Haruya fired the second set, using centrifugal force to circle around the titan's nape. There. This was his chance. Making this judgment, Haruya fired his hooks into the left side of the titan's nape, sending his body hurtling toward it. Huh? A rapidly approaching object distracted Haruya. His gaze fell on something emerging from the side. Boom. Ugh, cough. The object struck Haruya's left abdomen, the intense impact likely damaging his internal organs. The sound of breaking ribs echoed inside him. Unable to retract his hooks in time, his body swayed like a broken kite before crashing into the 10-meter titan's chest. Cough. Blood sprayed from his mouth as the pain in his left abdomen tightened every nerve in his body. Was he ambushed? Did a titan throw a rock at him? Or was it an accident? As he thought this, the 10-meter titan reached for Haruya with its right arm. Damn it. Struggling to maintain his posture, Haruya manipulated the ODM gear to escape, first using his blades to sever the titan's fingers. But not enough strength. For a human, completely severing a titan's fingers wasn't easy. Usually, it relied on the inertial force provided by the ODM gear. Crack. His right arm was grabbed, the immense force crushing it. Broken bones pierced his skin, causing excruciating pain. I guess this is it. Checkpoint, reload. His vision instantly changed. Unlike the dense streets, the sky above was vast, but it also made the enemies of humanity, the titans, more visible. Repeating the same actions as before, Haruya lured the 10-meter titan into attacking while moving behind it. At the same time, he glanced to the left. There it was, the flying boulder wasn't thrown by a titan, but was the result of an explosion from artillery fire. What misfortune! Retracting the hooks from the titan's nape, Haruya fired them into a nearby building. The flying boulder narrowly missed him and struck the 10-meter titan's head. This series of actions gave the other titans time to surround him and the 10-meter titan time to attack again. To avoid the next attack, Haruya used his hooks to move to higher ground and began running to the right. Boom. The 10-meter titan crashed into a building, causing it to crumble under the impact. Losing his footing, Haruya was forced to jump and use his ODM gear midair. At that moment, the 6-meter titan appeared in front of him. This is my chance. Haruya made this judgment based on the 10-meter Titan's current state of vulnerability. Firing his hooks into the farthest chimney, Haruya retracted them. His body shot through the air like an arrow. The 6-meter Titan raised its arms upon seeing Haruya, opening its mouth to sever the ODM wires. Haruya didn't give it the chance. He retracted the hooks early and adjusted his angle slightly, charging straight at the Titan. The 6-meter Titan tried to swallow him, but it was too slow. Haruya swiftly passed between the Titan's arms, flipping midair and firing his hooks. Once they pierced the nape, he pulled himself closer, his slightly angled blades easily slicing through the Titan's nape. Next. The remaining Titans were the 10-meter, 12-meter, and 8-meter ones. Continuing to use the ODM gear, Haruya noticed that the Titan's encirclement had been disrupted due to the earlier accident, slowing their progress. The 12-meter Titan was the biggest threat, with its long arms and massive head giving it a wide attack range. However, seeing the 12-meter and 8-meter Titans close together, Haruya switched blades. Checkpoint, save complete. Time to try a new attack pattern. In his field of vision, a moving figure entered. Armin rushing toward Ren. Armin and Haruya locked eyes. Armin bit his lip and sped toward Ren and the others. Boom. 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 To most trainees, these were the footsteps of death. To Haruya, they were a testing ground. Organizing the current information in his mind, he noted the 12-meter Titan in front and the 8-meter Titan behind, close together. He needed to take them both out at once, or he'd be caught by one of them. Should I run away now, rest, and then reload to continue fighting? Thinking this, Haruya remembered what Commander Pixis had told him earlier, don't run away. Was this the infamous ability to read people? Breathing heavily, Haruya realized that even though his physical capabilities had significantly improved, his stamina couldn't sustain continuous combat. Don't think that using the ODM gear only required the strength to cut napes. Controlling, moving, and retracting all required stamina. But being able to expend stamina to this extent was impossible for most soldiers, as they'd be eaten before running out of energy. Not wasting any more time, Haruya ran toward the 12-meter Titan. Moving across rooftops, he jumped down and fired his hooks. The 12-meter Titan reacted quickly, swinging its long arm horizontally. This time, as Haruya descended, he fired his hooks at the ground. His body accelerated downward, easily dodging the 12-meter Titan's right arm. Upon landing, he rolled and locked onto his target. Haruya passed between the 12-meter Titan's legs, firing his hooks into its back from the ground. Once they pierced, he pulled himself up, soaring into the air. Haruya then calmly fired his hooks again, this time into the nape. Beside him, the 8-meter Titan pounced. Haruya's clockwise/severed the 12-meter Titan's nape. Third one. Standing on the falling 12-meter Titan's nape, Haruya jumped as it collapsed. Firing his hooks into the 8-meter Titan's eye, the Titan instinctively grabbed at the wires. Seizing the opportunity, Haruya spun and fired his left hooks, horizontally slicing through the Titan's nape. Still gripping Haruya's wires, the 8-meter Titan fell to the ground, taking Haruya with it. He rolled several times before crashing into a wall and coming to a stop. Using his blades for support, Haruya stood up, swaying slightly, his ears still ringing. Cough, cough. Leaning against a wall, he twisted his body and sprang up. Time for the next one. After dealing with the approaching Titans, Ren had already lifted the boulder at the front gate. His body bore the immense weight, his skin breaking and regenerating, steam billowing from every part of him. Thump. Thump. Each step was heavy. On the ground were garrison soldiers who had sacrificed themselves to ensure Ren's safe passage. Go to the ground and draw the Titan's attention. Meanwhile, Armin and Mikaza who were guarding Ren also saw Haruya. Haruya's clothes were stained and torn, but he was otherwise unharmed. Watching the soldiers who were willing to sacrifice their lives on the ground. Like any normal person, Haruya didn't want to see humans dying before his eyes. Not just him, most people wanted to be saviors, to change the world. Like this world's protagonist, Ren, who wanted to eradicate the Titans and gain freedom, giving him a charismatic personality. Combined with his unique abilities, he became a beloved figure. Heroes exist at all times. Whether real or fake was irrelevant, as long as they achieved the corresponding results. Haruya stood on the rooftop, raising his blade and thrusting it into the air. Everyone, move. I'll handle those Titans. His sudden, seemingly overconfident declaration made some hesitate. To prove his words, Haruya began to fight. Using the boulder Ren was lifting as a stepping stone, Haruya moved with his ODM gear. Forward. Issuing this command, Haruya flew toward the 3 Titans ahead. Firing his hooks continuously, he had to find anchor points on the ground and the Titan's bodies since there were no buildings nearby to use. Firing his hooks into the arm of a swinging titan, Haruya used the momentum to fly through the air. Pulling himself closer to the titan's nape, he swiftly severed it, first one. Spinning his body, his rotating blades destroyed the eyes of a crouching titan. The blinded titan staggered back, and Haruya circled around to slice its nape, second one. Likewise the last of the trio. Third one. By this point, Ren was nearing the hole in the wall. Just then, Haruya noticed his left gas canister was completely empty. What? Ugh. Unable to retract the wires, Haruya was grabbed by a titan. I'm dead. As he thought this, a figure flew past him. At the same time, a massive tremor shook the heavens. Ren had succeeded. Meanwhile, the figure Haruya saw swiftly severed the nape of the titan holding him, then, using the nearby wall for mobility, zipped past the napes of two more titans like a gust of wind. That was too reckless, trainee. Standing atop the corpses, the man with the Wings of Freedom emblem on his back spoke. Then, turning to the two guarding Ren, he said, "Kids, what exactly is going on here?" Humanity's strongest had arrived. Chapter 11, The Advancing Dormitory and a Deliberation Meeting. Hey. Did you hear? The reason humans won this time is because they used the power of a titan. It's definitely a lie, right? Regardless, the results are right in front of us. The hole in the wall made by the colossal titan has been sealed. But I still can't understand how humans can use the power of a titan. Can we really trust the government? Just look at today's newspaper. More importantly, we should worry about our future. Even though the hole has been sealed, no one can guarantee that the colossal titan won't attack again. Even though we won this time, the residents nearby have lost faith in the safety of the walls and want to move inland. If that happens, as the population of Trust District decreases, the pressure on the inland areas will increase, and those who stay here won't be able to survive. Both commerce and agriculture will suffer greatly, and returning to the original state will be nearly impossible. However, for the garrison and the trainee corps, this victory holds extraordinary significance. Sometime after Ren sealed the hole-in-wall rose, Haruya, along with the survey corps and the artillery unit, cleared the titans from the town and the walls, even capturing 2 alive. Just dealing with these took several days, and the casualties weren't too severe. While reflecting on the events of the past few days, Haruya sat by the window, enjoying his breakfast. The morning in Trust District was quiet, with the sun rising from behind the high walls casting warm light on the ground. A gentle breeze brushed past his face. After finishing his bread and soup, Haruya stood up from his chair. There was still some time before Ren's deliberation meeting, which was scheduled for around noon. It was still morning, so Haruya had some free time. Of course, he didn't necessarily have to attend the deliberation meeting, he just wanted to see if things would unfold as he expected. Perhaps this wasn't the world of the manga, but a similar one, akin to Log Horizon. If things didn't go as he imagined, Haruya would definitely take action to steer the events in the direction he wanted. Though it would be much easier if I could become a titan. Even though he didn't know any martial arts, his ability allowed him to foresee the future in front of his enemies. Therefore, if he could become a titan, he could immediately capture the female titan, Annie, during her first attack on the Survey Corps. Unfortunately, the mischievous supreme deity didn't grant Haruya such power. Should I try to find a way to obtain it myself? Speaking of titan transformation, the titan serum that was injected into Ren would reappear later in the story, but it would take a long time. By then, the female titan would have already been captured by someone other than Haruya. Yes, Haruya noticed something. In this mission, it wasn't just about capturing the female titan but rather Nangu capturing the female titan. Otherwise, he could just hide somewhere and wait for the plot to unfold. Assuming it unfolds as expected, of course. Stretching, Haruya opened the door and stepped into the hallway, where he saw fellow trainees emerging from their rooms, apparently heading out for training. However, there were also some lazy ones, like Haruya's current roommate, Connie, who had been sleeping since early last night and showed no signs of waking up. Time for a bath. Thinking this, he returned to his room and took out his uniform from the suitcase. Back in the hallway, many people whispered when they saw Haruya, their expressions filled with jealousy and confusion. That's the new recruit who claims to have taken down titans. I heard his recorded achievements include killing over a dozen regular titans and 4 abnormal titans, mostly solo. No way. Even the Survey Corps doesn't have many who can do that. Since Haruya hadn't kept a detailed count, the trainees might have heard exaggerated rumors. But thanks to this, he felt his chances of joining the Survey Corps had increased. And not just joining. He could become a corps member. Well, that might be too ambitious. Thinking this, Haruya smiled, but this caused those around him quickly step back, fearing he might slice their napes. Guess I need to practice my smile. Since Haruya was relying on memory to find the bathhouse, he got lost a few times along the way. Looking out the window again, He noticed that after humanity's first victory, everyone seemed more relaxed. Descending the stairs, he saw a few male officers emerging from behind a curtain labeled bath. Haruya was sure that was the men's bathhouse. We made it out just in time. The officers said this as they passed by. Haruya set down his belongings and saluted. Pulling back the curtain, he entered, took off his clothes, and saw a large pool with water bubbling up in the center. Is this a hot spring? Not thinking too much about it, Haruya rinsed off and then soaked in the pool. Ah! This is pure bliss. Less than a minute later, footsteps echoed again. Finally, it's the women's bathing time. Yeah, it just started too. Huh? Haruya removed the towel from his head. Did they just say it just started? So, the men's bathing time was before 6:30? This is bad. But if I explain. Haruya tried to reason. Do you remember? Last time someone peeped, they were hung in the training field for 3 days. One voice said. I'm dead. Haruya concluded. Seeing figures at the entrance, he thought for a moment and then moved toward the inner area, planning to sneak out from the side. By the way, Historia has such a nice figure. And no way, Sasha, you eat so much, but you're still so slim. People in the village are all like that. So it's just the two of them. Mikasa and Nier. They have great figures too. Yep, definitely dead. Haruya, who had just stood up, crouched back down, took a deep breath, and submerged himself underwater. Splash! He heard someone entering the pool. If I could just hold my breath until they left. But that was impossible. Due to the steam, Haruya couldn't see his surroundings clearly, but he suddenly found an escape route. A window not far away. Perfect? But he was discovered. There's a man here. And no, it's not like that. By the way, trainee Mikasa really has. No. I made a mistake. After that, Haruya was chased by the fully dressed girls for 2 hours. In the afternoon, a tired Haruya was called to the office. Yawning, he looked up and saw that the person sitting there was none other than Erwin Smith, the commander of the Survey Corps. This isn't our first meeting, is it, trainee Haruya? Commander Erwin. Haruya saluted. No need for formalities. Before Ren's deliberation meeting begins, I have a few questions for you. What is it? At Erwin's gesture, Haruya sat on the stool in front of him. He had expected to be summoned by a training corps officer, so seeing Erwin Smith was a surprise. But this also meant that Haruya had caught the Survey Corps attention, which wasn't a bad thing. You look quite tired. Would you like some wine? No thank you. My tiredness is my own fault. Then let's get straight to the point. Trainee Nanbu Haruya, do you want to join the Survey Corps? This was an unexpected development. Haruya pretended to hesitate. A direct answer might make Erwin suspicious. I know the Survey Corps is dangerous, but with your abilities, joining us would be the best choice. You could make a significant contribution to humanity's future. Erwin continued, I won't force anyone to join. If you want to leave, you can. If you don't want to join the Survey Corps, forcing you isn't my style. Hearing this, Haruya sensed something in Erwin's tone. Haruya admitted that he had done many eye-catching things during the recent operations, but was Erwin's invitation really that simple? There were many talented trainees, like Mikasa. Why hadn't Erwin invited them? This seemed less like goodwill and more like a precaution. In other words, it was akin to keeping a dangerous person within one's own jurisdiction, making it easier to handle if something went wrong. Yes. Just like how they dealt with Ren. Can you be honest, Commander Erwin? What's the real reason you want me to join the Survey Corps? Haruya asked straightforwardly. Oh, why? Do you think I'm lying? Just a guess, but I've always admired the Survey Corps. Of course, I want to join, but I don't want to do so blindly. You? Yes. Hearing Haruya's response, Erwin sighed and sat back on the sofa, his expression serious. Haruya could hear voices outside, likely soldiers guarding the room. You're quite sharp. Let me explain why I called you here, though it might offend you, trainee Haruya. As a graduate of the trainee corps, your calmness during your first battle was remarkable. Your fluid combat style and composed attitude when facing titans were astonishing. These are things I heard from reports, things others inadvertently observed about you. Of course, I can't fully believe them, but I don't think those people would lie. Erwin paused for a moment, then, the most important thing is your attitude toward titans. Unlike ordinary soldiers, you showed no fear, more like a seasoned warrior. Because I've died so many times. Haruya thought. But Erwin, unaware of Haruya's thoughts, revealed the most crucial point. Lastly, this is something everyone saw. How did you predict the Titans' attacks? Uh-oh. Did you say something? No, nothing. Haruya began to consider whether he should reload a checkpoint. But if he did, he'd have to go back much earlier, rendering all his recent efforts pointless. To be honest, Your actions have caught our attention. Would you like to join the Levi squad? I can accept that. Haruya immediately agreed. The reason was simple, joining the Levi squad would bring him closer to the female titan. Alright, the deliberation meeting is about to begin. We'll talk more later. With that, Haruya's conversation with Erwin ended. Heading to the deliberation hall, he stood at the back like everyone else. At the front were Mikasa and Darman, while Levi and Erwin stood on the other side. Presiding over the trial was Darius Zakali, the commander-in-chief. Ren was chained in the center of the hall, with the military police on his left and the Survey Corps on his right. Ren Yeager, you once swore to dedicate your life to the public, correct? Yes. This is an exceptional situation. The authority to judge has been fully delegated to me. Darius Zakali looked at the report. Your life and death will be determined by my inquiry. For the people within the walls, there were two views of Ren, a demon bringing destruction and a savior offering hope. This deliberation meeting would decide which faction, the military police or the Survey Corps, would take control of Ren. First to speak was the military police. Commander Nildok of the military police proposes that we conduct a thorough investigation of Ren's body and then execute him. This is proposed considering the significant actual losses his existence could cause. While his Titan power has contributed greatly, the actual losses are undeniable. He has become an overly political entity. Let him become a heroic spirit for humanity. On the other side was the Survey Corps. I am Erwin Smith, the 13th commander of the Survey Corps. We wish to welcome Ren as an official member and use his power to reclaim Walmaria. Next came the scene where Levi beat Ren. Haruya quietly slipped out during this. Heading back to the dormitory, he patted his cheeks. Without a doubt, once the Survey Corps ventured beyond the walls, the female Titan would appear, aiming to capture Ren. So, time to plan a little. Chapter 12, The Deal and the Survey Corps. Returning to the trainee dormitory, Haruya pondered what he should do next. First, he could easily join the Survey Corps and get closer to the center of events. If he had stayed voluntarily, he probably wouldn't have gained as much attention. That's why he had taken such risky actions earlier, fighting Titans alone. After pouring himself a glass of water, Haruya sat by the window again, looking out at the nearly empty streets and the few pedestrians. The population of Drost district had begun to plummet, as citizens, distrustful of the government, sought to flee inland. The desolate streets made Haruya sigh. The next steps of his plan began to take shape in his mind. The Survey Corps would set out to scout, attempting to reclaim Walmaria using Ren's Titan power. Then, the female Titan, Annie, would launch a sudden attack. After running through this sequence of events, Haruya didn't forget to consider what to do if the story suddenly changed. But how exactly could he capture the female Titan? As a human, completing this task would be nearly impossible unless he had skills on par with Levi's. If the Survey Corps, led by Erwin, captured her, wouldn't that count as a mission failure? If the mission failed, Haruya's life would end here. He downed the slightly sweet water in one gulp and noticed many soldiers emerging from another street and alley. There were members of the military police and the Survey Corps, signaling the end of Ren's deliberation meeting. In the crowd, Haruya spotted a few people wearing cloaks and hats. It seemed the Survey Corps had temporarily gained custody of Ren. Looking up at the sky. It's about time. The two Titans captured by the Survey Corps were killed by Annie, and squad leader Hand went berserk. Next would be the expedition beyond the walls. This expedition was merely a scouting mission, aimed at safely delivering Ren to a designated location. But returning to the main topic. Haruya's mission, capture the female Titan. If he could rely on others to capture the female Titan while participating in the operation, it might count as a success. But what if it didn't? If it didn't, the mission would end there. Annie would seal herself away, and everything would be over. How about making a deal? The sudden change came from above. By the time Haruya noticed, everything outside had frozen except for him. If it were a matter of perceived time, at least the pigeons flying outside would still be moving slowly. But now, there was no movement at all. The wind-blown trash, the soldiers' raised hands, the expressions of passers-by. All were frozen in place. In short, time had stopped for everything except Haruya. Have I finally awakened this power? The ability to accelerate time. Don't ignore me, Nangu Haruya. I'm the one who stopped time. Don't foolishly think you've awakened some superpower. Having one ability is already the luckiest thing in your life, isn't it? Though I really don't want to admit it, there's nothing to refute. I am indeed unlucky. Since arriving in this world, unfortunate events had decreased. Was this hidden proof that being ice-kite equals misfortune? As the saying goes, the pitiful have their hateful aspects, and the unfortunate have their moments of happiness. But let's get back on track. Will you make a contract with me and become... Oh, my bad, I've been watching too much anime lately. Don't bring virtual world stuff into the real world. Though this place can't exactly be called the real world either. I think I'll play the role of Mephistopheles, the demon. Humans love that kind of character, right? The idea that a demon can grant them power, that's true. After all, many villains are like that. The reason evil fails is simply because the setting dictates that good must triumph. What an unfair world. Why must evil always lose? No one can deny the world someone else wants to create, right? Of course, I think those who dream of conquering the world, whether human or not, are utterly foolish. In this frozen moment, the supreme deity seemed eager to elaborate on his views. Those idiots should think carefully. After conquering the world, how would they manage it? Politics, economics, culture, communication. If mismanaged, once the conqueror's power weakens, they'll be overthrown by others. All their efforts would be handed over to someone else. In my opinion, the reason humans or non-humans can't conquer the world is simple: the world doesn't want to be conquered, kind of like how your destiny isn't determined solely by yourself, but also by others. What a philosophical way to put it, I say mockingly, you jerk. More importantly, the supreme deity repeated himself twice before lowering his position slightly. Personally, I don't agree with the saying good always triumphs. A more accurate statement would be evil always loses. From observing countless events, tragedies, and stories, it seems that powerful evil always ends up struggling for various reasons and ultimately fails. Meanwhile, the weaker side, representing good, seizes victory at that moment, acting almost like a villain. I get it, I said in a tone that suggests I'm listening to nonsense. You jerk. Getting back on track, the supreme deity elevated his position and stature again. What a convenient body. Your mission is to capture the female titan, but for someone as unlucky and weak as you, it's too difficult. Unlucky is a given, but weak is a biased opinion. As long as I can use my ability, I'm practically invincible. Don't get excited. Since you want to change the situation, let's make a deal. I'll grant you titan powers, and in exchange, you'll be limited to a set number of saves in this world. For emphasis, the supreme deity's passive luminescence intensified slightly. Once you accept the deal, your ability in this world will be limited to 5 uses, 5 times. That's a bit low. Since entering this world, Haruhi had already used it over 10 times, many of which were spent practicing with the ODM gear. Thanks to those days of practice, he had avoided being eaten by titans many times during his first battle. However, once he gained titan powers, he wouldn't have to worry about being killed by titans, as long as he didn't get too reckless. But what if something unexpected happened, and the situation became dire? With only 5 saves, each use would have to be extremely cautious and deliberate. Before that, can you tell me what kind of titan powers you're offering? I don't want to be a regular titan or an abnormal titan. Oh, and a flying titan would be awesome. Stop talking nonsense. What's wrong with your brain? The supreme deity deliberately used a mocking tone. Haruhi snorted and sat back down. The ability after titan transformation definitely won't be flight. Aside from the fact that flight is only useful for escaping and doesn't enhance combat power, flying in human territory would be meaningless. Moreover, based on a titan's size, while it's not as heavy as one might imagine, supporting such a massive body would require wings of considerable size. The idea of small wings allowing flight in anime is pure nonsense. Rather than saying wings enable flight, it's more accurate to say that wings are imbued with flight magic. It seemed this supreme deity had been influenced by otaku culture as well. Indeed, as the supreme deity said, characters in anime who fly with small wings must be using flight magic rather than relying on the wings themselves. But none of this is useful. I told you not to get excited. As the price for only being able to use 5 saves, after transforming into a titan, you'll gain an armor ability. How about that? Like armament hockey from One Piece? Yes, you could say it's a combination of the armored titan and the female titan. Even your elbows will be perfectly protected, unlike the armored titan, which has vulnerable joints. That's pretty convenient. A titan with armament hockey? That's ridiculously overpowered. So, will you make a contract with me? No, will you agree to the deal? Deal. Haruhi nodded. Good. The method of titan transformation is the same as for other characters. Oh, and, at this point, as the supreme deity floated toward the window, he added, that armor ability initially has a limited coverage area and can only last for 5 seconds, with a 10-second cooldown. What the hell? Why are you only telling me this now? Goodbye, you're screwing me over. Even if he shouted, it wouldn't change anything. Plus, time had started flowing again, so to avoid drawing attention, Haruhi chose to stay quiet. A few days later, the graduating trainees gathered for the new recruit induction ceremony. Have you all made your decisions? Hearing Armin's conversation, Jean looked serious, while Connie seemed conflicted. Standing on the stage was Irwin Smith, commander of the Survey Corps. I am Irwin Smith, commander of the Survey Corps. The king has entrusted me with managing the Survey Corps activities. On this day, when you choose your branch, what I want to discuss with you is, of course, persuading you to join the Survey Corps. Irwin scanned the crowd, his gaze lingering on a few individuals before passing over Haruya. Due to the sudden Titan attack, you've been forced to gain experience equivalent to an expedition beyond the walls. Witnessing so many sacrifices as trainees is unprecedented. He continued without pause, you've came to understand the terror of Titans and the limits of your abilities. But this time, thanks to Ran Yeager, we achieved victory. Then, in the basement of his home in Shiganshina district, there's said to be a mystery about Titans that even he isn't aware of. If we can reach there, we might find clues to end the Titans' century-long reign. As everyone knew, to fully investigate, they would need to reclaim Wall Maria, which would be an incredibly difficult task. However, our goal remains the same, but the gate in Trost district is unusable, so we'll have to detour through Karane's district to the east. The 4 years spent building the main route have been rendered useless. And during those 4 years, over 90% of the soldiers had died. Irwin added, even with conservative estimates, sending another large force to Wall Maria would require 5 times the sacrifices and 20 years. An utterly unrealistic number. The expressions of the trainees around him instantly changed. We need talent. Due to the high number of casualties, we're short on personnel. Therefore, new recruits will also participate in a month-long expedition. The mortality rate for new recruits on their first expedition is 50%. Those who survive will gradually become elite soldiers with high survival rates. Irwin's next words made even more people hesitate. Those who know the horrors and are still willing to risk their lives, stay. Those who stay will mostly die in the near future. Ask yourselves if you can dedicate your hearts to humanity. After speaking, Irwin announced that those unwilling to join could leave, while those who volunteered could stay. In an instant, most of the trainees left. They walked past Haruya, their expressions varied. Some relieved, others gritting their teeth. If someone told you to die, would you do it? I don't want to die. Good, everyone's expressions are clear. Irwin saluted. Now, welcome to those who remain as new members of the Survey Corps. This is a heartfelt salute from me. Dedicate your hearts. Yes. The number of recruits joining the 104th Survey Corps was 22. Well done. You've endured the terror. You are brave soldiers, and I deeply respect you. Haruya stood at the far right, saluting before letting out a sigh of relief. This way, the story hadn't deviated from Haruya's expectations and was progressing well. As for the Survey Corps, he would join no matter what. More importantly, he wanted to find a secluded, hidden place to practice. Looking at his right hand, what he needed to practice wasn't the ODM gear, but the ability to transform into a Titan. The sensation of transforming, the movements, the use of abilities all required practice. But maybe it would be as easy as controlling his own body. Ren seemed to manage it. This is troubling. Because soon, the expedition beyond the walls would begin. Chapter 13, Haruya versus the female Titan Nangu. Haruya believed he was a very methodical person, and the reason was simple. He liked to rehearse his actions in his mind beforehand, analyzing possible scenarios and thinking of countermeasures. This wasn't an innate trait, but rather something he developed over time, all thanks to his inherent misfortune. Originally, Haruya thought that with this kind of luck, he might one day encounter an unhanging from a balcony or become a hero who shatters the unrealistic dreams of his enemies. But in reality, it was his own dreams that were shattered. Aside from his unusual checkpoint ability, Haruya had never experienced a cliché encounter. He couldn't become a protagonist, nor could he become a savior. He was just an ordinary person constantly killed by a malicious world. Of course, the being killed part wasn't exactly ordinary. In short, Haruya was just an ordinary person with a checkpoint ability. In every other aspect, he was no different from any other human. He felt pain, he worried, he suffered, he cried. But now, those emotions had gradually faded. It wasn't that repeated deaths had numbed his emotions, it was just that Haruya realized that panicking wouldn't help him achieve anything. Therefore, he had to stay calm. He had to view the entire story and events from a third-person perspective. In other words, he had to play the role of a detective, understanding the thoughts and actions of those around him. Additionally, Haruya's advantage lay in his knowledge of the upcoming events. However, if the plot changed, he would need to reassess. In short, panic and fear had no place in this world. But ultimately, most human crises and difficulties were caused by humans themselves. It wasn't just this world that was cruel, even the original world he came from was cruel. In Haruya's past life, whether it was people he knew, strangers, or the couple living downstairs, they were all aimless. They didn't pursue dreams or strive for anything, they just drifted through life. But most people were like that. It was a way of survival. Just as he had once found solace in light novels, seeking some joy to make his mundane life more interesting. Therefore, even though he had encountered many unfortunate accidents, Haruya didn't dislike his current situation. No annoying classmates, no noisy car horns. The only thing he needed to do was survive. Not just him, but everyone around him had the same thought, including the veterans and new recruits of the Survey Corps. There was also one more important issue to address. Haruya hadn't found any opportunity to use his Titan transformation ability. If he tried to go outside the walls, it would definitely raise suspicions. If he tried to go to the forest's inland, it would take too much time. No matter which option he chose, there were significant limitations, leaving Haruya no chance to practice his Titan transformation. Just let it be. Haruya muttered. What do you mean let it be? You're way too calm about this. The person who responded to Haruya was Connie Springer, riding on his horse. Since the two lived in the same dorm, they had become somewhat familiar by now. Haruya's eyes were fixed on the high walls, then shifted to the Survey Corps main force ahead. The gate to Karane's district was about to open. Only a 50% survival rate. That means about half of us will be killed by Titans during this expedition. Connie, that's just a statistical probability. It doesn't really prove anything. You'll definitely survive. I will survive. And don't you die either. You stole my bread before, didn't you? Ugh. I said I'd pay you back. Who told you to try hitting on female trainees outside? That wasn't hitting on them. Anyway, pay me back. Come back alive. Nodding, Haruya heard the voices of the soldiers on the walls. Commander. Almost there. Most of the nearby Titans have been driven away. 30 seconds until the gate opens. A trainee reported this, and an officer raised his right hand. We're finally setting out. Humanity will take another step forward. Show me the results of your training. Yeah. The gate began to open, and the 57th expedition beyond the walls commenced. Just outside the gate, a 10-meter Titan approached the main force from the left. 10-meter Titan approaching from the left. Don't panic. Leave it to the support team. We just need to keep moving forward. And so, the Survey Corps main force began its advance into Titan territory. Spread out. Long-range reconnaissance formation. Erwin gave the order. As planned, after leaving the old streets, the troops dispersed, forming a long-range reconnaissance formation. Second row, center command, Commander Erwin. Third row, third position communication, messengers. Fifth row, center standby, Ren and the Levi squad. Second row, third position communication, messengers. Second row, fourth position communication, Armin and others. Third row, fourth position communication, Jean and others. The new recruits were positioned between the supply wagon escort team and the reconnaissance support team, advancing with the reserve horses and relaying messages. If they encountered a Titan, they would fire a red signal flare. Upon receiving the signal, Commander Erwin would use a green signal flare to change the entire army's direction, avoiding the Titans. If they encountered an abnormal Titan, they would fire a black signal flare. Haruya was assigned to Armin's group, scouting at a certain distance. I can't see the details from here. The sky was still a clear blue, the grasslands stretched endlessly, and there were occasional dilapidated houses and scattered trees. Haruya, riding his horse, looked around. He could see distant figures, though they were somewhat blurry. Putting on his hood, he urged his horse to pick up speed. Suddenly, a black signal flare shot up from the right. An abnormal Titan? It's about to begin. Haruya took out the signal gun from the military bag at his waist, confirmed the ammunition, and pulled the trigger. The black smoke shot into the sky, hopefully reaching its destination. Thinking this, Haruya rode toward the right, where our men should be. But halfway there, his horse suddenly stopped, neighing and thrashing violently. Caught off guard, Haruya was thrown off, and the horse, as if terrified, began foaming at the mouth. Hey, did you eat something bad? Soon, the horse collapsed, twitching a few times. Misfortune had struck. There were no Titans in sight, but Haruya was still far from Armin's group. Ah! In Haruya's field of vision, a deserted village appeared. If his memory served him right, the female Titan would pass through that village. Seizing the moment, Haruya rushed toward the village before the female Titan arrived. Along the way, he tried using the ODM gear to latch onto trees to increase his speed. This method reminded him of the Just Cause game series. Not dwelling on irrelevant thoughts, he reached the village and began searching for a suitable ambush spot. Based on the information Haruya had gathered, if he could achieve the same speed as Levi, he could slice through the female Titan before she could harden her skin. Unfortunately, Haruya knew he couldn't reach such superhuman speed. But if I choose a good spot and attack at maximum speed, it should be possible. As long as he remained hidden, he could buy more time to make the cut. Thinking this, Haruya entered the attic of a deserted house, located at the village's exit, the path the female titan would ultimately take. On the right, there was a large broken hole. At that moment, green smoke signals appeared in the sky, heading in another direction. It was about to begin. Just as Haruya guessed, the sound of hooves and dodiem gear echoed. Thud, thud, thud. The female titan was closing in, her rapid strides bringing her closer to Ren's group. Hiding in the attic, Haruya peered through the rotten wooden window. Scouts surrounded the female titan, trying to stop her. Smelling the mildew in the room, Haruya waved his hand in front of his nose. A Survey Corps soldier on horseback appeared in his view. Over here. You monster. He fired a signal flare, but the female titan dodged it. Of course, his goal wasn't to hit her but to distract her. Now. Letting others seize the opportunity to attack. But the female titan blocked her nape with her left hand. Facing the trio's combined attack, she grabbed one soldier's wire with her right hand and leaped into the air. What? She jumped. As the soldier exclaimed, the unbalanced soldiers were dealt with. One was crushed under the female titan's foot, another was kicked onto the roof of the house next to Haruya's, and the last had his spine broken by the centrifugal force. I need to report this to the others. There's actually such a... Boom. With a single kick, the soldier and his horse were sent flying. Just as the female titan was about to leave the village,